welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal Idunyate, and today I am so excited to share a flip through of all the projects I created using the Listen Story Kit from Ali Edwards for Story Kit Crush. Now, all of these layouts I have close-up photos taken and posted over in a blog post that accompanies this video. So if you want to see some close-up images, maybe read the journaling and that sort of thing, then you'll definitely want to check that blog post out, which I have linked in the description box down below. Last week, you would have seen the video where I took this kit, broke it all apart, and decided what stories I wanted to tell with it. I do have two process videos that I created for two of the layouts that I'm going to show you today, but those are located exclusively over on Patreon for this month at least, and potentially for a couple months in the near future. I am just planning to share the planning process and then the final flip through, which I'm going to call this my story haul. So you'll get my story planning and my story haul videos each Friday in the month. But for now, I'm going to just kind of take it easy on the process videos to give myself a little bit more time to work on some other projects and potentially put together some different content that I can share here with all of you. So hopefully you guys can understand that and are okay with just seeing the planning process and the story hauls afterwards. Hello friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I am so excited to share my story haul, which is a collection of all the stories that I told this month using the Listen Story Kit from Ali Edwards for Story Kit Crush. Last week, you would have seen a video come out, my story planning video, where I took this kit and broke it apart into all of the different stories that I wanted to tell using the various pieces in the kit. Today, I am sharing the flip through of all of those layouts now completed. Now, if you want to see some closer up images, perhaps read the journaling and get some more details on the individual stories, you can find all of that information over on my blog. I do have a blog post that accompanies this video where I share detailed photos and also some details on the supply lists that I used for each of the individual projects. So definitely make sure to go check that out. The link is in the description box below for you to go and see that if you are interested. All right, so I am going to set all of these projects to the side and bring them over one by one to share how the layout came together, the story that I decided to tell, and any other details that might come to mind as we are flipping through them. One thing you might be wondering is, where were all the process videos this month? For this month at the very least, and potentially for the next couple of months, my plan is to just simply share the planning video and the story haul video so I can save myself a little bit more time and potentially put together some different content for you guys in the months to come. But I can't do that if all of my time is going into process videos. So for now, I'm taking a break from those, and I'm just going to share the planning and the story haul. If the process videos are something that you look forward to and something that you're really going to miss, I will suggest going and checking out my Patreon, which is a paid member group. In that group, I do share two process videos each week. So this week, actually last week, they would have seen the process videos for Listen. This week, they are seeing the process videos for Begin. And then I also do a couple of process videos with a story stamp as my main product that I am using. So you may want to go and check that out. There are two for each kit that I share each month. And for now, that's where those process videos are going to live until I decide if I want to bring them back here or if I want to just, for now, continue taking a break from posting those here. But never fear, there will be other content that will come and take its place. For this month, you're just going to see all of the Story Kit Crush videos. The planning and the haul video story hauls will be on Fridays, since Friday is technically Story Kit Crush Friday. So hopefully that answers some of those questions. If you have any other questions about that, feel free to leave those in the comments section and I'll do my best to get back to you on those. Okay, so let's go ahead, set this to the side, and begin going through these different stories. The first one that I want to share with you is one that I did inside of a pocket page notebook. This is a traveler's notebook sized album. I get these from a company out of Australia called the Stamp Spot. And the way these are set up is they have the traditional white papers that you would find inside of a traveler's notebook. But in between each of the two white papers, there is a traveler's notebook sized, or a 4 1/4 by 8 1/4 sized pocket. I love using this space to add in some decorative pieces to give a fun see-through element. Sometimes that is a shaker pocket. Other times it might just be a piece that I put into the middle and staple so that there is an element of transparency in my album as well. For this one, I used 2 of the cards, or actually, technically it was 1 card that had 2 prompts. It said a sound I love and a sound I don't love. I cut that apart. It was a 3x4 card. I cut it in half, rounded the corners, and backed it with a little bit of colorful, watercolory looking paper from Vicki Boutin, which is always a favorite of mine. I love Vicki's style and the colors that she includes in her kits. So I like to keep some of her pattern paper on reserve for projects like this. Then I trimmed out 2 pieces of white cardstock that were each 4 1/4 by 8 1/4 and used a alphabet stamp set from Carrie Bradford Studio to stamp out the words that talk about the sounds that I love and the sounds that I don't. So for example, I said a sound I love, I put laughter and singing and coffee brewing and laundry drying, and things that bring me comfort or happiness as I'm listening to those sounds. For the opposite side, I did the exact same thing, but I stamped out words of sounds that I don't enjoy, like whining and my alarm clock and fighting and chaotic kid cartoons. Things that don't necessarily bring me pleasure to listen to them. For the pocket in between, I used the Listen Story stamp to stamp out a bunch of these different icons. There's music notes, there's a speaker, there are headphones, and then there's the treble clef bar or notation. So I stamped those in StazOn ink onto vellum and then fussy cut them out to use as confetti inside of this pocket. And then the last thing in here that you see is this heart piece, which I trimmed out of a 6x4 card, added in my date stamp for the day I recorded this, and then on the back I printed out a photo of my kids playing together, which is one of the sounds I do enjoy, and I trimmed that, or I adhered it onto the back of the heart and trimmed around it in order to create this heart-shaped photo. So that is story number 1. The next story here is one that I'm telling about my kids. Let me bring this out here. So this is going to go inside of a 6x8 album. Most likely this will go into my family album since there's a little bit of story from my daughter and a little bit of story from my son. What I did for this one is I took the prompt listening and overheard, and I wanted to interview each of my kids and ask them questions about life right now. So for example, I have questions like, why do you like being a kid? If you could be any animal, what would you be and why? What is your favorite thing to do? What do you love most about your sister? Or what do you love most about your brother? So just different questions. Now, as I asked them each the series of questions, I also video recorded them. I then uploaded those videos to my YouTube channel as unlisted videos, so you guys will not be able to see them, I guess, unless you scan the QR code. Then you could if you really wanted to. But I uploaded them to my YouTube channel as an unlisted video, which means that it gives me a link. I'm then able to take that link and go over to a QR code generator in order to create a QR code that links to that specific video. So underneath their interviews that I've typed out, I've also included the QR code for both of their interviews. So in the future, we can just scan the QR code and go and watch them at this age right now, answer the questions about their life and their likes and their dislikes and all that fun stuff. I paired this with a photo of my two kids. This is a photo I took way back in January. It's just one where they're both pictured, and it's a picture that I like, so that's the one I chose. And then I'm also using the, this might have been the marketing card. No, it's not. It's just a filler card that says, speak in a way that others love to listen to you, listen in a way that others love to speak to you. So just as a filler piece here, and then called this one done. I should also mention before I put this over into the pile that for the title pieces, I cut apart some pieces of the striped 3x4 card that came in the kit. And then I also cut out the titles. These were originally on 3x4 cards. I just chopped off the portion where the title was, added the stripe underneath, and then stuck both of that down onto a 3x8 journaling cardstock piece. So that way I can have more journaling than would fit on just a 3x4. This next one, I was inspired by the Turn It Up chipboard and the 8 puffy stickers that are all music symbols of some way, shape, or form. For this one, I thought it would be fun to get a picture of all of us with our headphones on. So that's what I did. I instructed everyone to put on their headphones, and I took a headshot of all of us to include as my depiction of this story. And then the story itself is about the music that we are currently listening to as a family, that are the songs when they're playing, where everyone's like, turn it up, and we're dancing around in the kitchen. So some of them are very kid related songs. Some of them are ones that Aaron and I super love, or they might be songs that we've associated to different parts in a day. For example, Banana Pancakes is a song by Jack Johnson that we always play when we make pancakes on Saturday mornings. Or Thunder by Imagine Dragons is always a song that we play when there is a thunderstorm going on. So just different associations like that. Other songs that I've got on here, Bills by Lunch Money Lewis, which if you've never heard of that song, I highly recommend you look it up and listen to it. Bills by Lunch Money Lewis. It's one of my absolute favorite songs and one that gets me dancing every time. And then there's songs like Macca 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 Macaroni and Cheese, which is a kid song for sure, but one that we play often since we eat macaroni and cheese quite often. So for this one, I just created a template where I alternated some boxes between gray and white, and then I added the puffy stickers here down the side as my bullet points for the 8 different songs. This next story here was inspired by the card here that says this conversation, and then there's a chipboard that said so loved this conversation. As I was planning out my stories, I had just recently had my first episode with Paper Talk Go Live, and I wanted to document what it means to me to be on a podcast with my 2 friends, Josie and Janet. And you know how at one point I was on a podcast already. I was a host of a podcast called the Scrappy Sisters podcast, and it just didn't pan out the way that I had hoped. So fast forward a year later, and now I have been invited to be a part of their podcast, and I just wanted to have a chance to document what that means. So I printed a photo here at about 6 by 6, and then added this listen card, which I chopped down smaller, flanked it with some tiny phrase stickers, and added the chipboard there, and then left my journaling and this filler card just super plain. So this one says, put your ear down by your heart and listen hard. And then this one with this conversation, I journaled a little bit about our first episode and that conversation, and just my joy at being behind the podcasting mic again. This next one was one of the 2 layouts that I did a process video for over on Patreon. For the most part, everything uses the Listen Story Kit except for the stamped cassette tapes. Those are from an older Featurecraft stamp set called Playlist. Now, Featurecraft is no longer in business, so the stamp sets are not available, but this is a reminder to go into your stash of stamps, whether they are from Allie Edwards or Future Craft or Paper Person or wherever it is you are getting your stamps, and look for ones that could go with the theme that you're documenting. So for me and the theme of listen, I had pulled out this stamp set here that has a cassette tape, and it also had an image of like an audio book, like if you were reading an audio or listening to an audio book or reading a Kindle story, there were stamps that looked like those screens. So that was a really good or really easy tie-in with stories like this one. So I used that cassette tape to create a patterned background going around this chopped down music to my ears 3x4 card. So this one I cut down, I believe it's 2.5 inches, because I wanted it to match the width of the cassette tape itself. Then on the opposite side, I've got the current soundtrack where I talk about my love of my favorite band of all time called Nickel Creek. And then I created a playlist for Nickel Creek, and I'm hoping I can inspire somebody to scan this QR code and go fall in love with a new band. But I have a QR code where I put together a playlist of my favorite songs, which is like a million songs, but my favorite songs by this group. Paired this with a filler card where I put listen up, and I purposefully had the arrow pointing to the QR code, this listen up pointing here. That just made sense to me. And then inside each of the cassette tapes, I wrote down the name of the song and the album that song was on. So that is this one. Okay, next. When I am working through my story kits, I am trying to tell stories about my sister's wedding, which was in November of 2021, using different story lenses. So I find that going at these stories from different angles is helping me to capture more of the details of this event and include those in a wedding album that I am creating for her. For this one, I had this card that said currently listening to, and it has 5 bullet points here where it uses the speakerphone as the bullet point 1 through 5. And I added in some details about the things that we were listening to as they were going through their ceremony. An example is that we traveled to Mexico for their wedding. My brother-in-law, his first language is Spanish, as well as his family. And of course, our first language is English. So their ceremony was half in Spanish and half in English. And I talked about how we were listening to the officiant speak in both Spanish and English. So that's just kind of the kind of details that I was trying to capture. I printed this photo here to go outside of the page protector. It is 10.875 by 8.25. Added some wood veneer from my stash. These were both from Colorcast Designs from last year's releases throughout the year. And then I used this one over here to cover up a sentiment that I wasn't totally loving. So this was an easy way for me to be able to still use this card that felt like it was meant for a Mexico layout, but not, but cover up the part of it that wouldn't have made sense. So this is going to go and live inside of the 10x8 wedding album that I'm creating for my sister. This next one here I created in a 6x12 format, and this is going to live outside of the page protector. So in between, you can kind of see here that there is a strip of acetate that I have punched holes in. There is another story on the back side, so they are just adhered back to back. For this one, I was inspired by the card that says, "Funny how a melody sounds like a memory." And this made me think about certain songs, how they bring me back to my days of being in band as a high schooler. So I added my journaling. I've got all of those cork notes here at the bottom. That was another part of this layout, is I wanted to challenge myself to use all of the cork on one page. And then this also flips up, and underneath has a picture of me from high school. When I was in band, I used to play the alto saxophone. So that was really fun to tell a story of my past, and something I definitely love doing with these story kits specifically. This next one is the second layout that I have a process video for over on Patreon. This one, it's really funny. I feel like the idea for this spun off of lots of ideas, and ultimately the entire concept came from these two chipboard pieces where I thought, what if I made these chipboard pieces into music notes? And then that got me thinking about how I could add more chipboard and more cards and make my entire layout look like a sheet of music. So that's what I did. On here, I have a combination of pattern paper, chipboard, half circles or full circles. Some of them are wonky circles. Some of them are the hexagon shape, and I'm totally cool with that. The sizes range from 1 inch all the way up to 3 inches. And then I machine stitched the 5 music lines in order to create the lines of music here. So that's stitched with a machine, and then I hand stitched the portions that connect the notes. So whether it's the tails or the connecting bars, all of that is hand stitched using a chain stitch. So this is one that I did record my process for, and my patrons are able to see that. But it is just really, really cool. I love when a kit or a theme really inspires storytelling in a super creative way. The story for this one, I should also mention, is just my story with music, like where music has come into my life in both big ways and small ways. So that is that one. And then my very last layout here is another one that I just really loved putting together. For this one, I was inspired by the card that says today's sounds. And I thought about the idea of intentionally going through one day in the week and video recording sounds. So I did that. So for an entire day, I went around and I recorded all of the different sounds that make up the course of the day. Things like coffee pouring into my cup, or the dryer tumbling around in a circle, or the kids like screaming at each other as they're playing games, or I think I had my tea kettle whistling when I was making my hot water for my evening tea, clicking on the keypad as I'm working and my husband's working. So just all these different sounds that make up the course of the day. So what I then did is I took pictures. So I would record the sound for like 5 to 10 seconds, and then I would snap a picture of whatever it was. I compiled 8 of the different pictures, and then I journaled about them over here. So I have 8 different sections of journaling, each that pertain to the 1 through 8 of the photos. And then at the bottom here, I have yet again another QR code. This one is to a video where I compiled all of those 5 to 10 second videos together to create like I want to say it was like 2.5 minute long video that's just the different sounds throughout the day. And it's such a cool creative way to document a day in the life. So really, I'm just really happy with this layout, and really happy with all of the different stories that came out of this Listen kit. All right, so let me bring these back over and put them in a pile. I hope that seeing how these came together, so last week seeing the ideas, and then this week seeing how the layouts actually turned out, I hope that this gives you some inspiration for telling your stories, for taking one of your story kits, or even if it's not a story kit, even if you're working with, a different collection of product, maybe this can help to inspire you to pull that out and decide on some stories that you can tell with that product, and actually just do it, get it done, and use your supplies up in order to tell the stories of your life. I am going to be back again next week on Friday, and you're going to see my planning process for the Begin Story Kit. So we're going to do this all over again. So next week, you'll see the Begin Story Kit planning, and then the Friday after that, you're going to see my Begin Story Haul. I'm super excited to share that with you. I am currently in the process of putting together my Begin stories, and Story Kit Crush is it's a project that has my whole heart, because it is a project that at its core is about telling our stories, processing life, and remembering what's important to us. And until next time, have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, friends.